All right, what's up, guys? It's the 21st. It's Wednesday, halfway through the week. I hope everyone's having a good week. We're starting an hour and a half later than the normal time. Before I jump into it, I made that post this morning. Like I said, I always like getting feedback, so I appreciate when you send the message, even if I can't get back to you about it. I do see them. Got some feedback about trying to make the stream time more consistent. And like I said, it's tough sometimes, especially if I don't have enough time. I don't have to like prepare or write a speech or something, but I do like to have at least kind of a theme or a checklist or a couple things that I want to touch on, as opposed to just rambling. And if I'm working on a different project or working on something else, and then it's 1:30, or if I have a meeting or something, sometimes it's tough to get it out right at 1:30, but I am going to get back to it. I'm going to be really strict with that kind of in my own time management, so I'll get on a more consistent schedule and kind of get back to that. Obviously, it's not always going to be like that, but I hear that feedback, and I'm open to, like I said, I'm never gonna stop trying to improve this thing. So appreciate that feedback. So getting into it, and we'll start back on that normal schedule tomorrow. I think that's still the best time from everyone is 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. That seems to work out for the Euro crowd. It seems to work out for the US crowd as well. So I don't mind it either. It's right in the middle of my day. So I got to eat lunch and then I do this. In terms of what we're actually streaming and talking about today, I wanted to look at Bitcoin as always, which we're going to start with. I have two charts of Bitcoin up. And I was almost done editing this one. But we're going to look at Bitcoin. It's people, moving slow is one of my principles for so many reasons. Both because I think still so many people overtrade, and still so many people are kind of focused on the short term. And I'm an active trader. Like I love trading, and I love making a daily move and looking for a move. But I still think people kind of focus too much on intraday stuff and shift their entire, full bull. We're definitely, we're in the clear. We're going back to 20K. And then, I've now already seen a couple of posts of people saying 3K again. So I want to kind of look at that flip-flop from a big picture, look at trend analysis and see where we are, two different methods for doing that, and kind of give my view there. And then after that, I'm going to do Altwatch. I don't have any new alt trade ideas today. Like I said, the other part of that announcement this morning was the other kind of feedback I got was, sometimes that I could be more consistent. So sometimes it seems like I have, a bunch of trade ideas, or I have a bunch of content to push out, and then maybe a day or two and I don't have any trade ideas, or I don't have too many new thoughts in the market. The reason is I found myself, and anyone who's in the group in November and early December can kind of vouch for this. I was maybe sleeping. I still barely sleep, but if I push out too much stuff and I'm just coming up with trade ideas just to push out stuff all day, that's not going to help my portfolio, because I don't think sometimes, there's certain times where trades just don't make sense. And I don't think it's going to help anyone else's portfolio either. And it's funny, I actually got feedback from someone who's still in the group, and I'm glad they are, but I think it was like a month or two in, and they said they actually asked for less stuff because they just said it was so hard to keep up with kind of me working 20 hours and shooting out like 2 trade ideas and like 15 Bitcoin charts and like, a lesson on top of that, and also a thought on strategy, and then a thought on strategy in the afternoon. I kind of want, I think that's a little bit more harmful maybe than kind of actually performing analysis and giving trade ideas when I think it is. And, it's constantly trying to find that delicate balance, because I also do want to give you guys as much analysis and as much content and, provide as much value as I can on a daily basis. So it's kind of that delicate balance, but I am keeping it in mind. Thank you so much for the feedback. You know who you are, who you sent me a message. I do appreciate it. Because it's good to hear from you guys. And if it's something that you're not comfortable sharing in the group, like I said, I always prefer if you guys throw it in discussion, but if you're not comfortable or it's something personal, feel free. I am seriously so available to you guys. You guys are my first priority. Even if you leave the group, I've had multiple people leave the group that I actually continue to talk to. I don't want to say on a daily basis because it's so damn hard to keep up with messages, but I'm kind of committed to working with you guys for the duration of however long I know you. It's not this thing of, if you're not in the group or this isn't a fit that I don't want to talk to you. But anyways, I don't want to go off on that tangent. Thanks for the feedback, taking it into account and looking at ways to improve. One of those ways this month was the bot. So getting right into things though, past that, let's jump into Bitcoin. So the post that I've seen on Twitter, and today it got to kind of a new level of people talking about, now this is confirmed bearish continuation. I actually do think, I'm going to look at that objectively and tell you what I think. But it's funny, even if it is a bearish continuation, it's a bit strange to me that now the 3K and the 1,000, and those are serious numbers, are coming out from some people all of a sudden. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to look at that, and then we're going to look at it from two different angles, and then also look at some short-term Bitcoin. So looking at that right now, I'm going to go back to the chart that I've been analyzing, the one that I've been sharing, and the one that I really use before I look at the cleaned up chart. So the resistance yesterday that we were looking at in the live stream was based on this previous, this was kind of the intermittent resistance before we got to the next major resistance. It didn't get exactly to the line. It got right below it. And then we had a pretty serious drop, fell right below that retest. The bot went short somewhere in here. Once again, the bot's up. I don't think it's had a down day yet. So no kind of conclusive stuff from that yet, guys. It's just a bot that's been running for a few days. So still not financial advice, but I am keeping tabs and updating that spreadsheet, and things are looking really good so far. Anyways, besides the bot, looking at this purely technically, we fell through the midline, this kind of midline guide that I've been using, which acted as support previously, and now we fell through. What I'm expecting to happen and what I'm looking for is, now that a 4-hour candle close has been confirmed below this support line, notice how it never confirmed back here. I'm now watching to see if this will come and act as resistance, just like I thought it would on Ethereum the other day, a broken support becoming resistance. Oftentimes, since crypto assets almost are always going up, a lot of times we're looking at broken resistances to become support, but it works on the flip side as well. So that's what I'm looking at with Bitcoin short term. I'm looking for this to become resistance and us to get down to that next key support, in my opinion. That's just where I think we're headed, just looking at this on a short-term basis. That's kind of my view. That's my analysis. That's my perspective on where we're headed now that this support is broken on a 4-hour. There's an interesting horizontal level here as well, though. This level is clearly significant. I could draw a few horizontal lines, which is this support, this resistance, and this is going to be support. Not sure what just happened here. This support. Not sure what just happened to my trading view right there. So I could draw these two kind of support lines. I'm just going to draw it as a zone. I think it's a little bit easier to see. So this zone horizontally is also significant. So I don't want to say just because we cross this diagonal that we're for sure going down to this major support. So this is important to keep in mind. I am viewing that midline in my own view as important. But I do want to kind of keep in mind it's not a sure bet. This zone could definitely act as support just like it has in the past. And it looks like it is already. It's just my view that we do use this now as resistance, and then we do move lower. How do you place a midline in that channel? Andolini said, I literally just draw a line and make it the same slope as the support and resistance. And similarly to almost every other support and resistance I use, there's always going to be some level of subjectivity to it. I think more so with diagonal lines. But how I'm doing it is I'm taking where there's kind of the most points of confluence. So this is where 3 support touches. Up here as well, it's acting as resistance. Once again, a support touch. This seems to be the most significant level with the exact same slope. I'm sure I could move it up a degree or two, and it would still I would view it as a midline. For all these lines, there's zones for me. So a minor shift in it will kind of alter how it comes out up here. So that's how I did it. Dex is a good question. What software are you using to run your bot? Right now, the script is just on TradingView, and it's just hooked up with a webhook, and then it pushes to Discord. It's not actually executing right now. It's not connected to an exchange's API. Right now, I just want to see its performance, and then I'll probably trade it based on that, depending on how its performance is. If it's performing well and it's very similar to how I have an investment portfolio and how I have an ICO portfolio and how I have a trading portfolio. If there's a new strategy that I feel comfortable with and I'm confident in and is putting out good numbers, that's kind of an uncorrelated strategy that I would, move some of my funds towards, if that makes sense. Good questions, guys. Anyways, that's what I'm looking at, short-term Bitcoin. In terms of bigger perspective and going back on whether this has been a confirmed reversal and now we're in an uptrend, or whether this is, bearish continuation and this was just a pump and now we go down to 3K, I just want to kind of look at two different ways that I've been going back and forth with on identifying whether or not this is a continuation of the downtrend or whether we've actually seen a reversal. So if we look at what's happening here and we look at the peak, all-time high peak, the way that I like to identify trends is just based on higher highs, higher lows, or lower highs and lower lows. You can use a variety of different methods. I've showed some of them. Some can be based on RSI. You can use moving averages and talk about crossovers. You can use so many different things. You can use Ichimoku. You can use all these different indicators to determine trends. I just prefer to use price action, higher highs or lower highs, or anything of that nature. So if I'm looking at the peaks on this downtrend, and I'm kind of calling this the next peak, and this the next peak, the only kind of now question is whether this peak right here is viewed as a peak, or whether that's kind of just one of these on the way down. If this is viewed as a peak, this last one that I have circled, then we have clearly broken out of the downtrend. This would be the first higher high, and now we need to mark a higher low. However, if you don't view this as a peak, this white one I have circled, and let's say this is the last peak, then we're still in a downtrend. As in, this is still kind of a lower high. I would actually probably say it goes to here. And down, bounce, lower high, lower high, lower high. But I am viewing that. I am viewing this kind of as I'm viewing this level here one more time as a higher as a peak. And the reason I'm doing that is because as it moves down and we have a lower low, and you kind of have these bounces, these corrections, and then we have another peak. So I wouldn't view something this small as being a peak, but I would view this one as a peak. So just according to my own kind of trend identification and looking at whether or not this was a reversal, I have now seen a higher high than this high here. If I'm marking this as the high, this is clearly higher. The only thing is now we need a higher low. Okay, so that would be the full confirmation, according to how I identify trends, that we have a trend reversal. It seems like, a lot of people on Twitter, now that we've kind of broken back down just $1,000, everyone's kind of calling for, and a few other indicators showed it, the Ichimoku, and if you're using linear and it wasn't able to break that downtrend line, there's so many different ways to kind of confirm or deny whether something is in a downtrend or an uptrend. So that's the way that I'm looking at it. We still haven't broken the downtrend line, but shorter term, I'm kind of still sticking with, and I still believe it, that this is kind of the low in this cycle. That's not to say in the next cycle or in another cycle we don't go lower ever in the world than 6K. I think it's possible. But I just think that this is the low kind of for that FUD cycle or for this price drop or for this correction. Now, in terms of where that next higher low comes in, I'm basing it off of these fib levels, which is the major fib here, and also where it matches up with this downtrend fib here, and that's going to be at 9,400. There's also, if I'm using the old level, just to give you guys a different look, and I've been playing with it all day, make this one green, not there's too many lines on my chart here. I never want to make things too kind of complex or have too many levels. But if you're looking at the most recent fib or the most recent trend higher, I also think 8,400 is a significant level. But I'm more looking at 9,400. That's where I kind of have my short, or at least not even that that's a trade. That's kind of where my next directional target is for Bitcoin. I think we do move down to at least 9,400, just based on that diagonal line break. And now I believe it's going to retest and move lower. So that's what I'm looking at. I imagine the bot will be short till about then. So that's what I'm looking at for Bitcoin. So I just wanted to cover that. I already saw a lot of numbers being thrown out as 3K for sure. This is a clear downtrend. This is a bull trap. And then now people are kind of saying all in again at 10,350. Once again, I think it's very, very valuable to zoom out, look at where we are in the channel. Very similar to when I went over ETH and went over alts for the past 2 or 3 weeks now. They've kind of been at the middle of the channel. So it's not cheap. Down here is very cheap. This is where I get excited about Bitcoin. Up here is expensive Bitcoin. This is kind of where I'm looking to scale out, either into alts or to fiat. Right now we're in the middle. So in this kind of middle zone here, I don't really, I don't have too strong of an opinion, bearish or bullish, because I'm neutral here. This is neutral price territory. All in here. This is exciting, Bitcoin. This is where you want to be heavier into Bitcoin. Scaling in. That's why I scaled these fiat purchases in down here. Started up here, 8,400. The other one, last one at the bottom of the channel. This is where you're excited about Bitcoin historically, according to that channel kind of timing method. This is where you're excited about moving out of Bitcoin and moving into alts or moving into cash, just based on history. It doesn't mean that it's going to work in the future, but it's worked for the entire past year. And even if it kind of gets you out early, it was right again, and it was right again as it came down to this channel support. So following that systematic strategy, following the rules-based thing, and looking at, this is really the only way to value these crypto assets. I was in a meeting today and they were talking about, how do you give value to these things? If there's no cash flow, there's no dividends, there's no this. Right now, the only way to really give something a valuation or a relative valuation is based on technical analysis. Where has it been cheap according to the trend? Where has it been expensive according to the trend? There's no dividends or quarterly reports that come out for Bitcoin and says, oh, Bitcoin had a good quarter. It's all based on technicals right now. So that's how I'm valuing cheap Bitcoin. That's how I'm valuing expensive. Right now it's neutral. So I don't really care where, I do care. Obviously I still have a view on what's gonna happen short term. You know what I mean? This isn't an area, though, that I want to be going all in. It's not an area that I want to be shorting everything or getting rid of all my Bitcoin. This is kind of an indecision. This is kind of a mid-trade or a mid-zone level for me. This is where I want to move out. This is where I want to move in. So I wanted to go over that. I always like to give a bigger picture perspective because I know there's some people who aren't as active in here. And I just continue, even in my own style, I continue to try to move slower. And I think some people view me as just a trader. I think I have a much more investor, kind of slower mindset. I come from other markets as well, so I'm probably moving slower than a lot of people that just got into, crypto as the first market they've traded. Anyways, that's my Bitcoin view. Short term, that's where I think we go. I think we go down, but just want to keep this in mind. We're in the middle zone. I think it's price neutral. It's not cheap. It's not expensive. Altwatch. With this, we're going to go back to that ETH channel. And then I don't have any new trade ideas, guys. So if you have any questions, if you have any coins, I prefer, and like I said, I'll always look at every coin, but I'd prefer if you didn't just say, can you take a look at this? If you have a question about a coin, I think I can also provide more value as well. If you kind of ask a question and say, or give me some background. So if you say, can you look at VIA, if you say, you know, I'm long VIA and I'm looking to sell, or I'm looking to get in somewhere, it just kind of gives me more. If you do have any questions ever about a coin, or if you do have any questions ever about me doing something, give me a little bit of context just so that I can, you know, help you a little bit more. Anyways, looking at kind of the state of the alts, looking at where we are in terms of ETH, not a lot has changed. You know, we did get a confirmed retest. That's that support breaking, and most alts moving a little bit lower again. It's kind of now hanging right at this, right below the support. So I don't have too many thoughts. I definitely don't have any new alt trade ideas. I've updated everything in alt trade updates. The 2 positions that I closed, and then the 2 that I'm keeping open as well. Andolini said, any thoughts about Willy Woo's NVT signal? What are you David said, what are you typing? I'm not following. Okay. Crypto Andolini said, what are your thoughts about Willy Woo's NVT? I saw Willy speak. He's a really interesting guy. Really interesting guy. He's built. He looks at things a little bit differently than I've kind of seen anyone look at him, and he has a very cool kind of energy about him. Anyways, besides that, I like his NVT signal. I think, like most things, though, I think it's slow moving. It's kind of like when I was looking at daily RSI for Bitcoin, right? And I was talking about it's only been oversold, twice in the last entire year, and that was at kind of the drop down here, the bottom of the drop here, 1900, the bottom of the drop here at 3K, and then I was kind of talking about. I was talking about looking at this would be the real buying opportunity. You know what I mean? When we get a touchdown here. And, at the time of this drop, when it first got oversold, we were still at 9K. You know what I mean? So if that was kind of the first signal, it's never short-term doesn't mean we can go lower. Because we actually went, all the way down to 6K. And then it did pop back up. But I like the signal a lot. I just think with all indicators and with everything, I think it's important to keep in mind, just like a lot of people were showing that bullish MA cross. And it's like, yes, that is bullish. In the past, a 50 and a 200 moving average cross, that's been very bullish. But it kind of doesn't mean that short term you definitely couldn't see more pain. But I like Willy Woo's MVT a lot. I pay serious attention to anything he does. Him, Carpe Noctem, Nick Cote. There's a few guys that have been around a long time that put out really, really quality stuff, and I pay attention to their Bitcoin work. What are your thoughts on ETC, and when would you plan to exit before the fork? Good question, David. I'm not in ETC as a trade. I'm still holding it based on, where are my tools here? Based on, it's in my investment portfolio. I kind of haven't thought about it. When is the actual snapshot? Is it the same day as ZCLs? That would help me with a date. I think it's the 28th, 27th. I just don't want to misspeak here. Yep, of course. March 5th. Oh, wow. Okay, so if this is the fork, right? This green vertical line, let's give it some weight. If that's the fork, gosh, I haven't reviewed Callisto so much. I think as an investment, as a coin, I think Ethereum Classic is still seriously undervalued, especially if they actually do start getting some dApps. And people do use the ERC, what is it, 221 or 223 token format. I'm not sure. I still think it could have legs. The only problem here, and with ZCL as well, and we're seeing them both dip, is they're being dragged down, not because I think people are valuing the forks less. I think this is less of a fork dynamic. This is more of just an overall alt market dynamic. So if Bitcoin continues to take a steep hit, fork or no fork, I don't think these coins, even with the strong incentive of holding ETC for the fork, I don't think they're going to be able to hold up on their own. Everything is still so correlated. Even things with strong catalysts that should be moving by themselves. It's kind of one of the inefficiencies that I still think exists, and I talked about this on Twitter, and I think some people took it the wrong way in saying, inefficiencies don't affect me. I'm not a scalper. I'm not an arbitrage bot. What I mean by inefficiencies is that, the entire market shouldn't move down. The entire alt market shouldn't move down with ETH, or the entire market shouldn't move down if Bitcoin takes a step back. If fundamentally Ethereum Classic should have a higher value going into the fork, firms will be buying up Ethereum Classic. Not everything wouldn't move down, by together. And it's just still super inefficient. So I think I'm viewing this no differently than I'm viewing a lot of the other alts. I just think that kind of selling pressure for all alts, Bitcoin volatility just sucks the liquidity. It sucks the air out of the room. So this was the target still before the fork. This is the next major resistance that I see, this green line here, and that's based off previous resistances. So that's still kind of the target that I have set for the fork. But I'm not sure. I don't think it's going to get raised unless this Bitcoin volatility can kind of wane, if it can stop moving like it is. So I'm not trading it. I am viewing this. If this is the next major resistance, I'm viewing this area as the support here, and it's kind of right along support, and that's based off previous resistance here, here, here. So it's kind of right at support. So I don't really like selling here either. I think the immediate resistance before this key resistance is going to just be this recent peak. So that would be the first target I'd be looking to get out at. This is the final target though before fork. I think that's still a possibility, but it needs Bitcoin to kind of stop the volatility to get there. So those are the two targets I would have set personally. Sorry, I kind of deviated there from the question. It's one of those things. I don't know enough about Callisto. It's just like added to the list of things that I just can't really fully research. But it's one of those things, if you want to actually hold the Callisto, I would hold it. I think everything dumps after a fork, regardless, before or after. So it's like, do you think the value of Callisto is going to make up for that drop in value of Ethereum Classic? That's kind of the gamble you're going to play. In the case of Bitcoin Private, I think it does. In the case of a lot of these forks, a lot of these airdrops, a lot of things like that, I don't think it does. Yep. Anything else, guys, before I step out and do grab a sandwich? Gosh, I'm so excited to get those, to get the bot numbers out. But anyways, that's the next support I'm looking for Bitcoin. If we do get that low, if this kind of horizontal support doesn't hold, that's the next support that I'm looking for. So that's my view on Bitcoin. Yeah. Oh, David, of course. Oh, that's actually the one. You are literally the last person. I thought I made an announcement yesterday that I cleared up my inbox. You are at the top of my list. David, I know the message you're talking about. I just haven't sent the message back, so I will get right back to that. Surf, can we get a referral credit in for the group if we bring someone in? I've thought about that, but I don't. Right now, honestly, I don't kind of want to do that because it's almost like I kind of anti-advertise my group, right? I never tweet about it. I've only tweeted about launching my website back in November. I kind of don't want a million people. There's already like a waiting list of like 500, so it's like it kind of doesn't help me. I'm kind of maxed out, if that makes sense. So sorry about that, Surf. I'll post an update about it, but I might have another discussion room open, which wouldn't clog up any of this group. It would just be more people in a separate discussion, still viewing the read only. So, sir, if you have someone that definitely wants to get in, pass them along. I can make sure that they get in. There's actually 5 spots available in this current group right now. We're at 95. So if you have a friend or someone that you'd want to work with or someone you guys personally know, that goes out for everyone. You guys know I never advertise this. So come out, reach out to me, and I can follow up with them personally. But right now, it's way too many people that want to get in, and I never talk about my group. So I don't want to start the referral system and have a million people trying to get in. Anyways, that's all I got, guys. Thanks for tuning into the stream. We'll be back. Like I said, I'm going to be more strict with the time schedule. Hopefully that helps a few of you guys stay up to track with the analysis and everything. And I'll be in the Discord the rest of the day after I grab this sandwich. That is, yeah. Signing off, guys.